And I'm Doug Llewellyn here in our studios in Los Angeles with our guest today, who happens to be the managing partner of a company called Park South Group, which is headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is a financial and wealth management firm that caters to both individuals and businesses alike, and they specialize in a concept that is known as infinite banking, and I think you're going to find this pretty fascinating, to say the least. I'd like you to meet our guest now. Her name is Sonda Frattini. Sonda, nice to have you with us. How are you?
Thank you, Doug.
Before we begin, let me just point out the fact that you had a chance to answer some questions from William Shatner a little while ago. Let's take a quick look at a portion of that and see just how it went, okay?
Okay.
You are certainly in an interesting business, but take a moment to describe to me exactly what you do and who you do it for and how it helps move America forward.
Mr. Shatner, in my lifetime, Americans have been taught to borrow the same way through conventional lenders, incurring interest and debt they pay for the rest of their lives. We at Park South Group have implemented a model based on infinite banking where individuals and businesses can borrow without having to pay fortunes in interest while building their long-term wealth. And that, Mr. Shatner, is how we are helping to move America forward.
You know, that sounds very, very interesting indeed. I'm not sure what you mean by finite banking. What really is this concept all about? Explain it to me.
Well, Doug, pretty much what it is it's an overfunded whole life insurance contract from a good quality mutual company. And what we do with this contract is we do things that normally people don't do with a life insurance contract. We build a significant cash inside of these vehicles so that when people want to start paying down debt or save for college education or save for retirement, they're building a nest egg in which they have considerable capital to utilize for this concept.
And the point being, I suppose, then, is that instead of going to a bank to borrow money, you're borrowing from your life insurance, that you really are borrowing from yourself, aren't you?
Correct. And that's the whole point, is that most of us, more than, I think the statistic is 34% of every dollar that we earn is going to debt, is going towards interest to the conventional lenders.
Right.
So what we want to do is take the outside debt and bring it internally to yourself, so you're paying every dollar out back to you. So it's just kind of transferring the wealth from the conventional lender to yourself.
You know, this is a concept you don't hear a lot about. I know it's been around and discussed. In fact, there's even a book, and I have a copy of the book here. It's called Becoming Your Own Banker. I know you're very familiar with this, and you have all of your potential clients read this book before they come to talk to you about this, don't you?
Correct. That book has kind of changed the whole way that we do business. In the past, in financial planning, we did what we call needs-based selling, and what I learned from reading this book is that if I can take a client and I can reduce their debt load and get the stress off of them from what they're paying to the conventional lenders, I'm going to build long-term sustainable wealth for them that they're going to be able to pay off debt, you know, do the things that they need to do during life, be able to find an opportunity during a time where the opportunities are vast. Like, for instance, back in 2008, when we had so many foreclosures in the world, I personally was able to implement the strategy because I had saved in these vehicles and been able to purchase a foreclosed property and change the whole factor of my net worth. So that has proven personally to be very successful for me. So I want to take that knowledge and bring it to my clients and help them capitalize their bank and be able to have the same opportunities down the road.
Now, what's interesting in this is it really deals with acquiring insurance, buying insurance, but this is not something you hear about from the normal kind of insurance guy you go talk to about buying life insurance. And why is that?
Well, I had to learn the concepts, and I had to be taught by Nelson Nash, who is the guru in this concept.
Who wrote the book.
He wrote the book.
Right.
And basically what we had to do is really get certified in learning how to utilize a life insurance product in this fashion, because we're not focusing on the death benefit. We're focusing on the cash value growth. So this is actually a super-funded, supercharged life insurance program that we're customizing for our clients to basically build this capital wealth.
Who would you say is the ideal kind of client that can really take advantage of this?
Well, I think we've worked with everybody from, a net worth of, or income of 40,000 to an income of $1 million plus. So I don't think the individual is so important. It's what are their goals? What are their aspirations for their capital? And most people want to get out of debt. We kind of fall into that debt structure early on. And I don't know about you, but when I first got married, the first thing I did is get into a long-term 30-year mortgage. Second thing is buy the big cars. Third thing is I see a lot of is these students are paying lots of money in college loans.
College loans, yes.
And it's just killing them when they
Yes.
get out of college. And so if we can show somebody how to get out of debt and free themselves from that debt monster, I call it, I think we are doing so much more powerful planning for our clients than just trying to structure their assets to earn an extra 1% or whatever on their returns.
How does it actually work? What do you do with your clients when they come to talk to you about this?
Well, the first step has to be the educational process.
Yeah, I should point out, you hold seminars
Correct.
throughout the greater Charlotte area. Mm-hmm. And people come in and they're intrigued by it. You have them read the book. And then how do you implement it? What's the process?
Well, it's an educational process, and like we said, the first step is for them to read the book, because I call it, somebody has to have their aha moment, and the book is the first step towards it. And that all of a sudden they realize there's maybe a better way of building wealth and also paying off debt, buying vehicles, for instance. I mean, a lot of people just go to the commercial lenders and get a car loan. Well, we can show in that book that just by using this program for just purchasing vehicles can be very life-changing from a wealth structure perspective. So when we have somebody come in the office, the first step is we got to find out where the money is. We got to find out where the pain is. And then what we do is we bring them through a structured process so that we show them, based on what their goals and aspirations are, this is how we accomplish it. And we actually go into the nuts and bolts of the numbers and can quickly show them that we can get them out of a 30-year debt in sometimes less than 5 years if they commit, considerable assets to it.
Really? I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, but the process is they begin to acquire insurance. And this is insurance that you can borrow money against.
Correct.
And even if they are not typically perfect physically in health, there are members of their family that they can insure. And so there are lots of ways around that,
Correct.
right? So they get the insurance. So how long do you say typically? You just said you could get somebody out of a 30-year situation in like 3 or 4 years by acquiring insurance? And then what happens after that? You borrow from the insurance, but then, as you also point out, you got to pay it back.
Right.
But you're paying yourself, really.
Correct. You've got to be a good banker.
Right.
And so if you're going to take the debt from outside and bring it inside, you've got to be very consistent with paying yourself back, because that is the wealth building component to it. And now every dollar that you were sending outside is now coming back to your balance sheet. And that's the key to this whole thing is, we're writing checks for our mortgage every month, and 80% of that check is going to who? It's going to the commercial lender.
I have a note that indicates, as you've said, 60% of the money that you have put into an insurance policy can be accessed without being penalized. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, I mean, this concept has been around for a while, and it's gotten businesses out of trouble. I mean, during times where they had bad business models, or they had a bad time in the markets, that they were able to borrow from their policies and really keep their business and their doors open for during that duration. So yeah, all you have to do is call up the insurance company, and they can get you a check within 5 days, and you don't have to have all your financials and show them what your balance sheet looks like. It's your money, and you can access it how you want to.
So do most of the clients that you talk to, potential clients in seminars, do they go along with this? Do they do it?
Yeah, I mean, if they go through the educational process, and again, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a long-term conservative strategy that helps people get out of debt, and they really need somebody that is certified in this concept. They can't just go to anyone else, like you mentioned, because we bring them through a whole process, and it doesn't end with the purchase of the product. That's just the beginning of the whole process. We then have to show them how to utilize the contract so that they can start doing some of the neat things that they can do with this concept.
And you keep acquiring insurance as you go along,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. One thing that happens with this is, we don't want to put people into a program that they can't continue to implement. But once they start tasting it and they start paying off debt and they start using their bank, then they want more and more and more, because they realize the bigger the bank and the bigger the capital, the more they can do with it.
You mentioned to me an example of a client of yours who was bringing in like $1 million a year, but yet the family was struggling to meet their normal monthly payments, even with that much of an income. They're not that different from other folks, but this really helped them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Explain that.
Well, one of the things, what happens when you make money, what do?
You spend it.
You spend it and you go out and you buy more things. And so what happens to most people is their spending goes to the level of their income.
Right.
So if we can divert, I mean, when you're talking with somebody that has that type of income, we can find the money in their portfolio to start this program and immediately start impacting the money going out the door, paying off the vehicle loans, and start the process of eliminating the debt, eliminating the payments. I mean, it gets to a point when you're starting to manage that kind of wealth and that kind of debt structure, it gets overwhelming.
It does.
And so it's good to help them get beyond that.
I should point out, you have a long background in the financial world, over 20 some odd years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been doing this a long time. And you think this is one of the best concepts you've come across?
Well, I wouldn't have totally changed my business model if I didn't. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I finally realized that if I can get my client out of debt and start building their wealth, and oh, by the way, they have death benefit to cover their family if something were to happen. Right. There's nothing wrong with that. That's all good stuff. And so people look at you as a different kind of consultant, if you will, in the financial services area. We're not just your average insurance agent.
Yeah. If someone watching this is interested in attending one of your seminars, how do they find out about it?
Well, they would go to our website, which is parksouthgroup.net, and they will see the book and they will see some of the videos, and then they just have to respond to a link, and then we will follow up with them.
Well, listen, it's a really unique concept. It sounds very, very worthwhile investigating, especially if you want to know how to become your own banker and save a lot of money in the process.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for this information.
All right,
It's been
thank you, Doug.
very interesting indeed.
Thank you.